Hello guys, my name is Pedro. I am the creator of Synth Hunters, and today I will be showing you how to get your model like this one here when it's already animated and everything, and render it like this in Sketchfab so you can have it in real time and show anyone you want your model. So I won't cover animation in this tutorial because I already did in another one, so the link of that will be in the description of this video if you want to learn how I did this animation. I used Mixamo and I also added some extra details, so if you want to learn more about that, go to that video. But for this one, the first thing I will need is my model already animated and everything, and now I will export this model into Sketchfab and show you from that point. So I will go export all, and the options here of your FBX is pretty much the same if you do this in Blender or in Maya or whatever software. It's pretty much the same. Just make sure that you read through here and you add anything you think you will need. For instance, the baking of the animation, deformed models if your model is being deformed by the bones, stuff like that. Keep the constraints. So try different things. If you are having trouble, just leave a comment and I will try to help you. So I will export on top of this model that I already exported and replace it. And now my model is exported. The next thing I will do is I will go to Sketchfab. This is free. You can upload 10 models a month for free. So create an account and then you will be able to upload models. You click on upload and you can browse and select the model you just exported. So I will upload it now. This is uploading. So something is cool to have at this phase, if you didn't do beforehand, is to have your magicavoxel model open so you can change some things on the materials that I will show you in a minute. And now that it did, you can just click play and see if your model is actually animating, and we see that it does. It doesn't have the textures though, so I'll show you how to add that now. By the way, I'm very new to Sketchfab, so if you know some tricks to avoid some of the steps I will do, please let me know in the comments below so we all learn. So now that everything is uploaded, I will click where it says edit 3D settings. So when I click that, this will open the settings of our 3D model. So you have several options here that we will tinker with all of them in a second, but the first that I want to do is to change the materials so we can see the color of our object, right? So if you go here to materials, you'll have a lot of options here. We won't use everything, but I will explain the ones that I think are the best. So in here we have the different groups that I have in my 3D file. So we have the robot itself, we have this one called eyes, and then we have this one called light. So let's start with the robot. And now let's go to PBR maps, and base color is the one that will just paint the color of your object. So you will gonna click on this box here and you're gonna click on where it says texture. You can choose a texture, and if you uploaded your file with your materials attached to it, you should see them here. So I will just click one of them and we see that we already get the color on this robot going. Amazing. So the next thing I will do is I will go through the different objects and add the different colors I need. For this one, it will be just the black color. And for the light, I will use an emissive material. So it could be the case that you need to go through a lot of objects and keep adding the textures. If your textures are not showing up here, where you says choose texture, you can click on manage textures and you will see them all here, and you can import a new texture, and we'll be doing that in a second. So let's go one step at a time. What I want to do now is, now that we have the basic color, let's start working a bit on the scene, and we can go to the first one that is a scene, to the first tab here, and let's go one by one to see what we need in here. So in general, you won't really need to touch this unless you're doing something a bit advanced. I don't want to go too much into detail. The camera, me in particular, I like how it looks when I go isometric instead of like a lens that deforms a bit the object like that. So I'd rather have it all the way down to 0, and that's basically no perspective, like when you click on orthogonal on magicavoxel. Then the next thing I want to do is the background. I like to choose a color that goes well with my character, so maybe I can go with a bluish teal kind of color that plays with this red, something like that. I mean, I will do this quickly, and I will let you play more in depth with these things. And then this is pretty much all we need from the scene. So let's move now to the lighting. So I want ground shadows, and you have some options here. This is very intuitive. You can just play around with them to see what they do. Intensity will make it more or less opaque. The fade here will make it so it looks like it's fading away because of distance. And the height here, you see my model needs some adjustment. You can push it a bit up so it's not floating. So mine needs to be slightly higher, so something like that kind of works. And then the size will basically mean the size of your ground plane. Next, let's go to the environment. You already get one out of the box that you can rotate to light your object differently. And also, if you click in here, you can choose from a variety of environments. Sometimes some work better than others, so depending on the color of your object and where it's supposed to be, you can choose one or the other. So basically choose one that works for you, just rotate it around to get a nice lighting, and then let's continue. So that's all for now with lighting. I will show you other things in a second, but that's all for now. And let's go now back to materials. What I need to add now is my light. So you have two ways here. Basically, if your light objects are separated into their own group of things, like here, you will only need to go here to emission, turn it on, and then just put it all the way to 1 or whatever value you want. I will use 10 in this case. And now I will choose a blue light for my robots. So let's change this to a higher, brighter blue. And you won't see much right now because I'm making it like very high actually. So if you go too high, it will be like a bright light, but we're gonna fix that in a second. So the next thing I want to do is go to the next tab. I'm going one by one. So let's go to post-processing filters. This is when it gets fun. So the more things you add, the slower and the heavier it will be, the render. But in general, it's pretty fast, so don't worry too much about it. So the ones I use are SSAO, which means ambient occlusion. And this basically I will just pause the animation for a second. This will create where like shadows between the corners. So whenever it finds like a 90-degree angle on your model, like in this case, you see how this is like a 90-degree angle, it will just create a shadow there because it assumes that it's like a contact shadow. So you can make it more exaggerated or less, more intensity, and bias basically will make it more high quality. So if your model is like this size, don't worry too much about all these details, but if you want to see it like close and looking good, you can go to the bias all the way down and it will make it look a bit better. You see how, I don't know, it understands better where your model actually should be creating those shadows. So put it all the way down, see how it goes, and if it's not going very fast, you just like put it a bit up, just play with it. So the next one we want is depth of field. It won't work when you have 0 degrees on the camera, so I never use it. But if your camera is not 0 degrees, you are able to, I can show you really quickly. If I go back to my scene, camera, and I change the depth of field, I can go here and turn on this, and if I get close, you see you can click on your model and get this cool effect where it's blurred. So that's pretty neat, but with 0 degrees on the camera, unfortunately it doesn't work. It's not like in magicavoxel, so there's no point in having it, so I will just take it away. But just wanted to show you because it's probably something you want on your models if you're not working in orthogonal. Then sharpness, I will leave it for later to show you, and Vignette is kind of cool. It just creates this black border around your model, kind of focuses the attention on your model, so that can be cool. Just see if it's worth for what you're trying to do. So I will have it in this case. And then the one that is very fun is bloom. So if you turn this one on, it's like in magicavoxel, the light materials will emit like a little glow around it. If you don't know about that, I have a full in-depth tutorial about rendering in magicavoxel. You might find that on the description of this video. So again, here you can change the radius, and the threshold basically will make it that the closer to 0, everything will try to make a bloom, and if you make it all the way down, it will just be only the things that are very lit, like these things. So you see how it starts like making it kind of everywhere, otherwise just in the light here. So I kind of like it because this is a bit of a metallic robot. We're gonna touch the material in a second. Intensity, you can make it more or less. I'll just make it kind of there so we can see it. Let's continue on. You can play with it and try some different things. Once you start adding all the bloom and all the effects, sometimes your models start looking a bit blurry. So that's when you can use this sharpness tool that basically sharpens back your model. Basically, this is what it does, but if you do it very subtle, you can see that it kind of add a bit of definition to the model. It stops being so blurry because of all of the bloom and stuff. So I will have it on. And then Chromatic Aberrations will create this like camera effect. Can be kind of cool. Oops, is this one? If you like that, it just gives this like glitchy effect on the borders. You can see it kind of here. I will make it more obvious. So if you're into that, like it kind of works on the lights very well. So it is something that you can have even if it's like not too exaggerated, but it kind of gives us something on the lights. So I don't know, see if you like it. If you like it, you can have it. It's for free. So next, well, tone mapping and color balance, just play with it to see what it does. It's not super important. So let's go back now that we have some sort of lighting on our scene. Let's go back to our materials and see what else we can do to this robot, because there's plenty of things you can do. So the first thing we did was choosing the color here on the base color, but there's also the option of its specularity. This is how bright it will reflect the light, how shiny it is basically. So this thing mixed with roughness down here will determine if it's, I will put it all the way up on the specularity and all the way down on the roughness, and this will make it more mirror-like, yeah, more perfectly shiny. And if you go up here, it will make it more rubbery. So more roughness, more rubbery. And this is like an opacity level of that. You can have just a little bit of shine or not a lot. There's also metalness. So if your model is actually made out of metal, you can just put all that all the way up. And again, if you make it very shiny like a mirror, it should like be reflecting all of the background. So yeah, of course you need to play with this so it's not so exaggerated, but yeah, give that a play. I won't be using it for now. I will just, because I like my models to be a bit rubbery, a bit toy-like. You have other things that are very cool, like subsurface scattering. If your model was like made out of plastic, you can turn this on and make it look more semi-transparent, more meaty. Maybe if you have a human model, you can use this to make it look more like it's made out of meat. Or if it's like a plastic toy, if I wanted this to be like a toy robot, I can add a bit of that. Just put things up and down until you find something you like. It is very intuitive. Just try things out, and you'll see that it kind of works. So I will have some of that because I kind of like how it's looking right now. I'll just have some extra sharpness. Yeah, something like that. Kind of like it. So now what else we can do? Something kind of cool that you can do is to work with maps for your specular and everything. So imagine if, for instance, if I go all the way up, you see how everything is equally reflective. So if you wanted the red bit to be a bit less shiny than the black bit or the other way around, what you can do, a little neat trick, is go back to your magicavoxel file. You cannot change, you cannot reapply materials. You need to change the colors of the materials you have. And what I will do is I will turn everything that is red, I will turn it into a gray color like this. I'll copy this color over. And all that is black, I will leave it like that, but I will make this other color the same. So now what we are basically doing here is creating a map that says basically the same that we have here in Sketchfab. So you see how this, when I move this up and down, it gives me a value here that goes from 1 to 0. 0 is black, 1 is white. So the same goes here. You see it in this one here. So if I did this, that will translate to doing that in Sketchfab. This color black will look like this, and this color, this white color, you see it's almost all the way to the top, will look like that. So I will export this just to show you how this should look, how this affect things. So I just changed all of the colors, and the next step will be to export this texture. So to get the texture in magicavoxel, I will just select an object. You can go here where it says file, you can go all the way to the bottom, to the last one, and select it and click where it says selected only. This will allow you to click on OBJ and only export one object instead of exporting everything. So I can call this export specularity. I don't know if I spelled that right. So then I can go here and click here, manage textures, import texture, and we can go to exports, and we will get a PNG file that's called specularity that matches that OBJ export, right? So when we click that, we'll now have this texture applied to the specularity, and you see that now how it changed, that the white bit is reflective and the darker bit is much less reflective. So you can get very cool effects, and this can be applied to every part of your model. The only thing that you cannot do is come here, change the color and apply it somewhere. You cannot do that because this model is already exported, and the texture, the order of the colors on your texture, I don't know if you ever checked what the texture of magicavoxel looks like, but I can show you. Tutorial, exports, and if I open the specularity color here, you will see that it's basically a line with different colors, and magicavoxel will go through this line, identify the color, and put that color in the polygons that you painted in magicavoxel. So if then you want to change this red color, you need to change it in this position. So you cannot go to your magicavoxel and just change it in any of this one, because this red is right there, so only can be changed there. So what you need to do is think of this beforehand, and then without changing anything, just change the colors and export. So you could make a very complex map where this is metal and you have all that is metal in white. Let's do it, let's just for showing you. So let's say all this is metal, full white, and all the rest is not metal, so it's black. I could also take this thing and paint it to black because this is not metal, and I will also take this color here, this color, and turn it black, and then I will export this and I will call it metalness. So this way I can go to my metal, import texture, metalness, select it, and now you see that we have a metallic shader only on those bits. I don't want a metallic shader for this guy, but just wanted to show you this cool little trick. It's a bit advanced, but see if it helps you. So cool. Now we are seeing that maybe that white color I used for the specularity it was too much. So maybe I will just make it a bit less than that. So I will go back, I will Control Z a bit, and I will turn these two guys a bit lower down. If maybe this one could be higher up, this screws, just to have some variation, and I will just call this specularity 02. So just to show you that you can change your mind at any point, you can go back to manage textures, import the new one, specularity 02, and you can select it, and that will update the specularity of your model. Now it's not so exaggerated. So this will allow you to do stuff like going with your bloom, and if you wanted to make it a bit more intense, you are not blowing away, you're not blowing out your model by doing that. So I don't want to make it so intense anyway, so let's turn it a bit down. It's just a little color, and just like that we have our model animated and pretty much ready to be shown. So I will just remove the chromatic aberrations, and I will turn the sharpness slightly down, and this is how my model will look. I will now just tweak stuff like the colors on the background, the vignette and stuff like that real quickly. Okay, once you have something you like, I will just save now, because if this crashes or something, I will be very sad. So the animation, you will want to have this as your main animation. Take one, seamless loop. You can also have your static pose, but I think the animation is cooler. So let's have that. And then, yeah, you could make it slower if you wanted, or twice as fast. Those little tricks you can check there. And something cool that you could add to your model is in here where it says AR. You can basically, if you have a VR headset, or if you want people that visit your models to be able to see this, you can just place kind of like where this model will show up when you turn the view in VR on. And you can also say, where's the floor? In this case, it should be at 0, like we established before. No, we need to have it a bit higher up, something like so. And you can also say what's the scale of your model. So if this is like a super tiny baby robot, or if it's like a massive mega robot. So I think in this case, the robots are something like that. So it's pretty cool. Probably if you view this in VR, you will see like a massive robot just screaming at your face. Pretty cool. Unfortunately, you cannot add sound, but we are done with the 3D part. So I will save this, and I will go exit now, just to change the descriptions. We can call this robot enemy for Synth Hunters game. Add a little description. Then, in order for this model to be discoverable, you see how I don't have like a very good discoverability just with this description. You can click where it says categories and just choose what is relevant to your model. In my case, it's like characters and creatures. You can only choose 2, unfortunately. And maybe this could go science and technology, because it's like a robot. And then add some tags. And now we can, now that we have a good discoverability, we can just save and publish. Remember, you can only publish 10, so make sure that everything is working. You can edit it afterwards anyway. So it says your model has been published, 1 upload credit. I just spent 1 upload credit, and I have 4 more left. I've been uploading some stuff. Got it, see my model, and in here you will see if something went wrong, if it works. It takes a second to load all the textures, but this is how my model is looking. I'm kind of happy with it, and I'm happy to be able to show it to you guys. Thank you so much for sticking around, and if you have any doubts or any questions, feel free to ask me in the comments. I will most likely reply, or otherwise, if you want to chat with me, just join my Discord server. The link will be in the description of this video. It really not only supports my game and my community there, but it's also a great way to connect with me. And if you want to chat or ask me any questions, just feel free to do it there. That is a bit easier, you know, one-to-one. And thank you and see you.